Lesson Overview for Chemical Reactions Unit, Lesson 1.3, Analyzing Substances and Properties. In this lesson, we observe, discuss, and record in order to investigate the properties of 4 unknown substances. We evaluate a set of evidence cards based on how much detail is included in each observation, and we use this evidence to support a claim that 2 samples are different substances because they have different properties, which demonstrates scale, proportion, and quantity. The practices that scientists do are observe, discuss, and record in order to investigate and use the evidence to support a claim. The information we want to cover is the idea that 2 samples are different substances or different things because they have different properties. Properties describe substances. They are the traits of a substance, the qualities of a substance. And of course, scale, proportion, and quantity are always reminding us about the amounts of things and whether or not they're large or small and how we compare them to one another. The step-by-step plan. In step 1, we complete the warm-up and hand it in as usual. Step 2, we need to send you back to the lesson brief. You need to view the projections. Examine the evidence criterion. You will use these to help you make decisions about evidence. Read the Observing Like a Chemist investigation question, and we'll revisit that in a couple slides. Then in step 3, since you're at home and do not have access to the samples in step 3, you're going to view the video recorded or provided in classroom to fill in the table and answer the questions to the best of your ability. Again, it's another teacher who's completed this lesson in the classroom, and that way we get access to the actual substances and the reactions that take place. You can scan through the video to the most useful parts just like you did before if you need to. You don't have to watch the entire video. Step 4, use the sorting tool, evaluating evidence, to identify the strongest pieces of evidence and hand in. So it's another digital sorting tool that we've done before. You're going to be dragging and dropping boxes where you think they go best and handing that in, and that will submit a screenshot. And then step 5, see what you can find around your house to complete this step if you are able to. The unit question: how do new substances form? The chapter question is still, what is the reddish-brown substance in the water? And then a more specific investigation question today is, what makes an observation more useful to a chemist? Amplify Science, Chemical Reactions Unit, Chapter 1, Lesson 1.3, Analyzing Substances and Properties. As a reminder, in your lesson brief, you have digital resources available to you on the right side of the screen. In the warm-up, you are presented with 2 sets of observations and asked to respond in a couple questions at the bottom. And once you've done that, be sure to hand that in. In step 2, you're observing like a chemist. What makes an observation more useful to a chemist? In chemistry, observations are an important source of evidence, but some observations are more useful than others because they make it possible for a chemist to tell different substances apart. Detailed observations include specific information about a substance, such as its color or texture. So in this unit, we're going to use evidence criterion to make more detailed observations and provide stronger evidence so we can evaluate the quality of the evidence. And as we collect our evidence, we'll use the chemist's observation guidelines to help us make detailed observations. So be sure to think back to the guidelines that we're going to look at here in a moment as you work through this lesson. And again, you can access the projections in the lesson brief. And so here are the evidence criteria and the chemist's observation guidelines. Be sure to look those over and use them in each of the steps of the lesson and actually the rest of the unit. In step 3, it is intended to be a hands-on investigation. And since distance learning doesn't allow us to actually have access to the materials in class, you are going to be given a video posted on Classroom along with this video that reviews the investigation. Once again, refer you out to another classroom that has already conducted this. You get to see the substances, and the instructor will talk you through the process, and that will allow you to come back in here and complete this lesson. Step 1 does point you in the direction of safety guidelines, and step 2 is where you will record the results. Before we do, we need to pull up the projection. So if you want to go back to the lesson brief, you can if you want to refer to this on your own. But the chapter 1 question is, what is the reddish-brown substance in the water? And they provide 3 claims for us. As you examine the substances in the video, the samples, you are going to gather evidence and try to decide which of these 3 claims is best supported by that evidence, and also keeping in mind the evidence criterion and what is stronger evidence than others. And we're reminded here that the people of Westfield need your help in identifying the reddish-brown substances coming out of their water pipes. However, the reddish-brown substance isn't the only substance involved in the problem. Claim 1 suggests that the reddish-brown substance is the same as the substance that makes up the pipes. Claim 2 suggests that the reddish-brown substance is the same substance as the fertilizer that Dr. Jung discovered in the well. And finally, Claim 3 states that the reddish-brown substance is a different substance altogether. And in order to choose between these three claims, you're going to need to know how to tell the substances apart. So again, review the video, make observations, complete the data table and the responses below, and then we move on to step 4. In step 4, you have a sorting evidence gradient tool. We've seen similar ones before. In this case, once you open the link, the evidence tool looks like this. You've seen the evidence gradient poster before, stronger evidence at the top, less strong evidence at the bottom, and you have a number of boxes, and you are going to drag those over and decide which of them are stronger evidence and which are weaker evidence. Again, referring to the evidence criteria. If you need to go back to the lesson brief to view those, you can, and then be sure to hand that in. When you do hand it in, you'll notice that where the uploaded image here, you'll see your screenshot, and then you can respond to the questions below. Be sure to hand that in. And then step 5 asks you to look around your home, your residence, see if you can find a couple substances and practice making observations about them and determining similarities and differences. Again, trying to be as specific as you can. And that completes, after you hand that in, that completes step 5 and lesson 1.3.